So the work that you did the last time is in your packet though.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are here for a Taos Municipal School Board of Education special board meeting. Today is Monday, May 4th, 2026. For the record, it is 4:07 PM, according to the clock in the back of the wall. I would like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can I please get a roll call?
President Flores,
Present.
Vice President Spray,
Here.
Secretary Trujillo, Board Member King,
Here.
Board Member Concha.
Okay, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, item 3. If you could please stand. I'll go ahead and lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Our land acknowledgement statement. It is respectful to recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous people and their traditional territories. We acknowledge that we are on the historic homeland of the Red Willow people within the original territory of Taos Pueblo. This acknowledgement will oblige as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to respectfully recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Red Willow people whose land and water we benefit from in this great valley today. Item 5 is the approval of the meeting agenda. We only have one item on the agenda, which is a strategic plan and student outcomes focused governance. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda? Amendments?
No, thank you. Move to approve.
We have a motion approved. Second,
Second.
we got a second from Board Member King. Please call for the roll.
Board Member King,
Yes.
Vice President Spray,
Yes.
President Flores.
Yes. Item 6 is public comment. We don't have anybody in the audience other than the presenters and staff. So I will move forward from public comment to presentations. 7.1 is strategic plan and student outcomes focused governance, presented by David Chavez, CES Executive Director, and Ms. Lily May Ortiz, CES Coach. Turn it over to you, Mr. Chavez.
President Flores, Board, thank you for allowing us to be here once again. I want to call your attention to the handout that you have. Oh, okay. That on the work that you did the last time we met, I don't have a PowerPoint slide for this, but it'll have a one-pager that has the core values, the vision statement, and the mission statement. I believe there was consensus on the 5 core values, and those core values read ethics, excellence, innovation, equity, and empowerment. Make sure everybody has access to that
Can
one.
you show me what it looks like, please?
Yes.
Right here.
Oh, never mind. Thank you. Okay, thanks. I can't get my papers out of this thing. There we go. There's stuff.
So this is the great work that you did at the last meeting. Are there any questions on this part of your work? So what we're going to cover today, what we didn't get to the last time we met, we didn't get to the goals, nor did we get to the guardrails. So our work this afternoon is going to be see if we can reach consensus on goals for the district, as well as the guardrails that tie back to those goals.
Sorry.
So in your packet, you have 3 proposed goals. The one that's up on the screen now is the one for mathematics achievement. So you should have a handout that reads at the very top, mathematics achievement. And it's this one right here. So what you see on the slide is just a portion of what you have in your handout. The one in your handout has far more detail. And let me digress, if I might. I've also provided you with the test data for your district. This is the NAMASA test data, and it's also the SAT test data. I think it's important to review this first, because I think that'll have implications for the goals that you adopt and the percentage increase that you wish to include over the next 3 years. So at the very top of that handout, the one that has the test data, it's New Mexico NAMASA percent proficient or advanced 3rd through 8th grade, and then the percentage change. Does everyone have this handout here? So Taos actually, in the area of English language arts, you're doing very well in that area in comparison to the state. So if you look, they're using 22-23 as the baseline year. So the state in ELA scored at the 38.4 percentile. Taos scored at the 43.5 percentile. I'm going to 22-23, which they're using as the baseline year. Then in 23-24, the state went to 39.2. That's all the districts in the state. And Taos raised their score to 45.1. In 24-25, and let me mention that this is the year that we're using in the 6-year study as our baseline year. So in 24-25, Taos was at 45.7 in English language arts, which is inclusive of reading, spelling, and everything associated with English language arts. So your percentage change from 22-23 to 24-25 was 6.8 percentile points, which is really good. The state increased by 9.9, but they were far lower back in 22-23 than what Taos scored at. So you managed to stay ahead of the state, the other districts in the state, in the area of English language arts. So if we look at mathematics, and I'm going to the baseline year, the 22-23 academic year. So the state was at 25.3 in mathematics. Taos was at 26.7. There was a bit of regression, both at the state level, and it's also reflected in your results in 23-24. It went from 26.7 to 23.9. And then you raised your scores the following year in mathematics from 23.9 to 24.2. So if you look at 24-25 in comparison to, they're comparing it now to 21-22, you had a 0.3 percentile gain from 21-22. So if you, the goal that we talked about last time that we were here was 5 percentile points per year for the next 3 years, which would be the 15 percentile points by 2029. If you can achieve that in ELA, that's going to put you pretty close to the 60th percentile, a little above the 60th percentile. In mathematics, if you hold to the 5 percentile gain per year, you'll be just shy of the 50th percentile, approximately 49.2%. So I present you with this data because I think it's important as we engage in the process of developing the goals here today, is what percentage do you want to tie to the annual increase, being realistic, of course, for the next 3 years. So on your SAT, in the area of mathematics, in 22-23, the state was at 15th percentile, and so was Taos. Now, the SAT, I believe, is administered, Vanessa, that's at the 11th grade level. So the SAT is administered to your juniors. So for the 23-24, you had significant regression in comparison to the state. And the state didn't score all that well either, in my opinion, in mathematics. 11 percentile is not something you want to write home about. And then Taos was at the 6th percentile in 23-24. And then your scores doubled for 24-25, went in the SAT from 6 to 12, and the state went from 11 to 12. So there was regression when you compare it 24-25 to 22-23, 3 percentile loss from the cohort group in 22-23 to the cohort group of 24-25. So are there any questions on the data that you have been presented? And this is data that was put together by Sushant Saragarm, who we hired as part of the 6-year study. So the very first year of the study, 3 years ago, he actually disaggregated the data from 21-22, leading up to 23-24, which we were hoping that be our baseline year, but we were just getting initiatives in place. So we made the decision to move the baseline year to the succeeding year of 24-25 for that reason. Most districts by then had initiatives in place and were already putting those practices into play. So it wasn't have been fair to start a baseline year where the initiatives weren't being addressed by school districts. So we're hoping that all districts will be at the 50th percentile by 2029. These districts in the study in the area of mathematics scored 2 percentile points better than the rest of the state. So the interventions that we have in place in mathematics, AAIS is who we hired as a consultant to do that work for us with the 13 districts. For those districts that are implementing that to fidelity, it is making a difference for those districts. So we continue to contract with AAIS to support districts, and that's at no cost to the districts. They provide professional development to all of the districts. Taos has been instrumental in making use of that professional development. So I would anticipate that you'll see changes in your test scores as a result of that. Any questions on the data?
I'm sorry, Mr. Travis. What is that acronym? What's that company's name?
American, President Flores, Board Member King, it's American Alliance for Innovative Systems. So we put out an RFP for someone to do work in the area of mathematics back 3 years ago. We had 5 respondents. We selected AAIS. They were doing work in New Mexico schools already, and they were doing the entirety of the state of Hawaii, and then some school districts on the East Coast. And those districts that they were working with were showing significant gains in the area of mathematics. New Mexico, I think I've mentioned this before, has done a really good job on the literacy. For those districts that have followed through and implemented with fidelity those strategies that the state has put out, the letters training in particular, you've seen some great gains in the area of literacy. I think your district is no different. You've seen that. In their area of mathematics, the state had not done anything up until this coming year. They did fund mathematics at a significant level for next year, but Taos schools will be at least 2 years ahead of what where other districts are at, simply by participating in the 6-year study. So going back to the goals, what I've done is I've taken all of the information that you have put together thus far, your mission, your vision, your core values, the work that you had done previously in your strategic plan. And I ran it through AI, and I asked AI to develop a SMART goal for mathematics, given all of the information that we've collected thus far for Taos. So what you see here is the outcome of that. So you can take just a minute to read the goal. For those that might be on the call, I don't know if we have anyone on the call, if I might just take a minute to read the goal. So there, in the beginning with 26-27 school year to the 28-29 school year, Taos Municipal School District will increase the percentage of students scoring proficient or above in mathematics on the New Mexico State Assessment by cumulative 15 percentage points using 23-24 state assessment data as the baseline. And then the indicators, I've listed more than the NMASA as indicators that you would be using. And the reason for that, you don't want to wait a year to see if you've made progress on the goal. What I suggest is that you rely more heavily on your short cycle assessment. And the state requires certain short cycle assessments. And I believe you also have a short cycle assessment here for the secondary level. That should give you beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year data that I would rely on more so than the NMASA annual test score. So it gives you additional information that you can glean from as you look at the progress monitoring that you, the board, are going to ask your administration to provide you with. So the 15 percentile points would be 5-year increments. So for this coming year, you would look at making 5 percentile points from the baseline year of 24-25 to 26-27. And then in 27-28, 10 percentile points from the baseline year. And in 28-29, 15 percentile points from your baseline year. And we're not going to get into progress monitoring here this evening. That's what Lily May will work with you as soon as you have your community meeting and as soon as you solidify the goals and the guardrails for the district. She will be then working with you, the board, on how do you establish and how you set the progress monitoring for the district. I will in turn work with the administration with regards to the types of information that they should be providing you, the board, during those progress monitoring meetings. And it's our recommendation that if you read the book, Student Outcomes Focused Governance by A.J. Crabill, you will see that he recommends that at least half of your board meetings be taken with progress monitoring on student data tied back to your goals and your guardrails. So each of these goals, AI actually put some guardrails with each of the goals. What Lily May will cover with you later on is a summary of what these guardrails are. And then the recommendation, and I'm cutting into Lily May's presentation here, so I beg for forgiveness. The guardrails, it's recommended that you do 3 to 5 guardrails. I recommend 3, simply because you're going to be placing the onus of this on your superintendent and the administrative team, the leadership team. Not only will they be monitoring the 3 guardrails for you, or the 5, whatever you decide on, but they'll also have to be monitoring the action plans that are tied back to your goals. So minimally, that would be 9, and potentially that could be as many as 15, depending on how many goals you adopt. So that's a lot of data to try to track and report on. And remember, this is a 3-year plan. So the guardrails that you establish for the initial year may be continued into the second year, or maybe you come up with different guardrails for year 2 and year 3. My suggestion is, if you have established those guardrails and they're systematic, you know that they're going to continue on, then you should elevate or develop another guardrail for your administration and for you to work on. And keep in mind, all of this is structured so that you begin working as not a team of 5 and 1, but as a team of 6. So that the onus is not all on your superintendent and the leadership team. The onus is also on the board to provide the resources, to provide the policies, to provide the infrastructure, if you would, that they're going to need in order to be successful. So if they're successful, you're going to be successful. The progress monitoring will let you know at least every 3 months where you are relative to your goals and relative to your guardrails. So you can manage and change course if you need to. If you're not getting to where you need to be by the first quarter, then there may need to be an adjustment. And those recommendations will come from the superintendent and his leadership team as to what those recommended adjustments would be.
Thank you. I have a question. The
Yes.
paper that we're working on now, the SMART Goals, ELA, on the back it has, I think you said AI did these 4 guardrails on the back, is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Do they translate into any of the papers that any of the future papers, or are we just?
No, what you-
Because you kept saying 3 and then this has 4.
Yeah.
How
What you
does
will
this go
see
together?
is when Lily Mae makes her presentation,
Uh-huh.
what she has done is taken those guardrails
Mhm.
and placed them on a sheet of paper for you, a table. So it'll list those guardrails, and then it will, yeah.
Okay.
So those, and then you'll need to decide from that table, and again, I'm cutting into Lily Mae's presentation, so hopefully I do justice by it. On that table, you have more than one guardrail per content area, correct?
Right.
So you're going to need to make some decisions this afternoon on which of those guardrails for those content areas are you wanting to select for this coming year.
Okay, so then my question is, at any point, do we use these guardrails too, that say that they are, the superintendent shall protect equity and assets, maintain balance?
So those will be part of what you'll select for year 1. My suggestion is that you look at this as a 3-year plan.
Okay,
So you could do what's your highest priority guardrail for math? And I would suggest you adopt that one then for year 26, 27. And then for 27, 28, you might want to come back, revisit and say, do we have that
see.
systematic? And if so, which one of these other guardrails do we want to begin working on for this next year?
Thank you. That explains my
Yeah.
question, my
Okay.
confusion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
So the goal that I've established, that's the math goal. You have another one that I've listed for the ELA At the very top, it says 3-year SMART goal ELA. And it basically reads the same way. By the end of 28-29 school year, Taos Municipal School Districts will increase the percentage of students meeting or exceeding proficiency in English language arts by 15 percentage points compared to the 23-24 baseline year, as measured by the state-approved ELA assessment. So that's what you're going to be compared against at the state level. Again, I'll reiterate, I believe that you need to pay closer attention to the short cycle assessment that you're using, because that's going to give you the most current data that you're going to want to use to make based decisions on. So it also addresses within this, you shouldn't go to the norm. What is the middle of the population? What's that score? You should be paying attention to all of the subgroups, and are they progressing at the same rate or same level as all other students? So that's the reason that about 2/3 of the page down, you'll see that it asks you to pay attention to students with disabilities, English learners, economically disadvantaged students, and then your Native American student populations. And then same format, this also has some guardrails on the back. And then you will dictate as to how the frequency that you would like to see progress monitoring reported back to you as a board. You may want to do that monthly. Do you meet twice a month? Is that so? One of those, you may want to have monthly meetings. You may want to have quarterly updates. So that's a decision you all will need to be making. Then the last goal that I attempted to put together, because I heard at the last meeting that you did not want to lose sight of other content area. For example, science, social studies, fine arts, health, physical education, career-connected learning, and any other content you wish to track. So I put together a goal that would allow you to track that information. The only opportunity I see there, I won't call it a problem, I'll call it an opportunity, is that state really doesn't track. They may track science, but not to the level that they track ELA and mathematics. So you're going to, if you want to track progress in these areas, administration is going to have to recommend what are the assessments you're going to be using to, one, establish that baseline, and then secondly, what is that percentile increase that you're going to be looking for on an annual basis. So this is my attempt. I'm sorry.
Sorry. My question is we're tracking the mathematics and the ELA. What type of, what is the system? What is the school system? And I believe that it's a question for Ms. Mondragon. What do you foresee would be the challenge to track? Because right now, just tracking the data is and that's through the testing. I mean, is there any challenge to tracking all of the additional science, social studies, arts, health, career-connected learning? What do you think?
President Flores, Superintendent Lee, and Secretary Trujillo, I think right now, just off of the top of my head, thinking about it, it would be that the first challenge is us taking time to create those assessments for those specific subject areas. I think for our career-connected learning, we could probably track the students that are participating in it because that's something that we already have to do as a district, but looking at that piece, we're going to have to create short cycle assessments. Not that we don't already have those, but make sure that it's standardized and it's something that's reportable to the board.
Any other?
Secretary Trujillo, to answer that question as well, like we're expanding our AP assessments. So there is AP Bio, there's AP Physics, there's other AP components that we can now start to pull some historic data and use that as baselines for the next year. And in the betweens, we can work with our staff to see what kind of assessment they use to track the students as they move towards hopefully a 3, 4, or 5. And so it'll depend on the assessments. NMVSTAS will, obviously, sciences will be one of them, but you can also use quarterly passing rates for science classes, or social studies, whatever other courses that we can. But this will be where we can now work with the individual campuses to say, now let's look at the data that you do have to see how we can monitor that progress through either AP, quarterly, quarterly pass rates. Depends on the content area. Safe serve, let's say, for example, how many were last year? We can increase for this year, safe serve certification, so different components.
I'm saying this only because I think, well, anything poses a challenge and the extra monitoring, but I believe that our teachers would also be challenged to be able to put together a curriculum that would be very effective in tracking, and not just for the sake of tracking, but so that the children can learn, because there's some kids that will go into the sciences, into the social studies. I mean, that might be their forte, and their greatest strengths, and but I'm seeing just something that will enhance the learning for the children, but also the teachers will be able to just use what some of these science teachers are excellent. That's their cup of tea, and they're wanting to just really have the children engage in, but yet at the same time saying, well, let us show you what the data is going to show you what we're pouring into these kids. To me, that's exciting in that for the school to do above and beyond the math and the literacy.
Our staff will be able to have so much input and to be able to
Yes.
showcase what they are working on. It is a first for us, but it does give them an opportunity to start setting some litmus tests in where they feel that they need to tweak a little bit of the instruction, the strategies, and get professional development. We get their feedback during PLCs as well and see how we can adjust, because, this may be oversimplification, but I mean, we think of it like a diet plan. You set yourself a diet plan, an exercise routine, and then you adjust as you go along if you need to. So very similar in content, but it does allow us to expand to the other content areas and broaden the strokes as far as instruction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing.
President Flores, Secretary Trujillo, you do have end of course exams. That's a possibility. You also have national science standards, and they have assessments tied to those national science standards. You also have history standards. So there are resources there that you can use in certain content areas. You don't have to totally rely on what expertise you have in the district. There's already some resources that are available to you as well. So those are the three goals that I took. Again, the data, ran it through AI, and this is what was produced, given the data that I fed into AI. So I asked it to look at your vision, mission, core values, your previous plan. Another litmus test will be when you have your community meeting, the feedback that you get from your community will also need to be looked at, and it will come into play as to how you either tweak the goals that you eventually come up with, or you may be spot on given the work that you've done up to this point.
President Flores, Vice President Spray, members of the board, Mr. Chavez, if I may, looking at the goals for each of the content, is it possible to condense the language, say the same thing, you're just condensing it?
Yes, what you see up on the screen is what you could use, or you wanted to condense it even more than what the goal reads?
So if I may offer, like for example, the ELA, TMSD will increase the NMSA ELA proficiency scores from baseline, whatever that number is, to add 15 points, right, whatever it is. So let's assume Mr. Chavez, for the baseline for ELA on the data score, what was it again?
So the baseline that they used here for ELA was going back to the 23-24 academic year. We're suggesting that you use the 24-25
Okay.
as your baseline.
So then it would be TMSD would increase the NMSA math ELA proficiency from 45.7 to 60.7 by the 28-29 school year. And just, that's it, that's going from X to Y by Z. And,
That works.
and then with the success indicators, we'll do the by year, the 5 percentage points. Is that something that the board would consider? It's the same verbiage, it's just, now you know that you're increasing the ELA proficiency or math proficiency from an actual start number to an end number by the 28-29 school year.
That is probably a more accurate reflection of what you want to do. Because it keeps the score in front of you from where you started to the score of where you desire to be 3 years down the road. So would you want to do that? I would recommend that they all look consistently the same. So you could do the same thing for the other two, the ELA, and then for the other content area. Do you like the idea of having the third goal, taking the remainder of the content areas and at least looking at coming up with measures by which you're going to gauge progress towards each of those areas over the next 3 years?
I do.
I do, I just have a question also. Would it be appropriate, we have talked about the need to focus on also our student, the whole child student wellness. And that directly relates to student outcomes. How would we incorporate
Yeah.
that?
President Flores, what Ms. Ortiz will cover with you are guardrails tied to your academic goals. You can also establish a guardrail that addresses social emotional learning and use that guardrail as the basis to make sure that those are being addressed within the district. That would be my recommendation. Or you could establish a goal dealing with the same thing. I think a guardrail probably serves that same purpose. And we've had districts where they do have guardrail that reads with regards to social emotional learning.
Thank you.
Any questions on the goals? So if it's okay with the board, what I would like to do is readdress the goals with the verbiage that Superintendent Layton is recommending. So it wouldn't change the context of the board, of the goal, but it would simply change the verbiage to be more clear in terms of how it reads. So you'd be taking the percentile point from your starting 23, 24, 25 to where you want to be in 28, 29. I guess a decision point that you would need to make this evening would be, are you okay with being at what would it be, 49th on the math? 49 point something percentile. What you could do if you wanted to get to the 50th percentile is just increase it to 16 or whatever that is by 2020, 28, 29. And that wouldn't be too much of a stretch for your staff.
So the baseline for math is 24.2?
For math?
425.
I'm sorry, let's see. Yes, that is correct.
And so by 16 points would be at 40, not 50. 50 would be at 26.
If you keep it at 15, you will be just shy of 50th percentile.
It'll be shy of 40.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you, Vice President, for
34, yeah.
remember
You
those
you would
chickens.
be
though.
shy. So you're going to have to go,
Remember the attainable, right?
I don't
Why
know.
don't we just say to not below 50 percentile?
I guess the question there would be, is that realistic to expect that kind of a gain over the 3-year period?
I think, I mean, I guess what I can say is that if we remain at the rate of increase for each of the ELA and the math, although we may not hit the 50 at that point, it shows the increase for both at the same rate. And then as we get closer, maybe second and into the third, we can reevaluate to see if at that point 50 is still a viable option within that year or add a couple more years for
I
that
see
piece.
what you're suggesting. In other words, let's take this 24, 25 as the baseline. Put strategies in place for this coming year, 27, 28, 26, 27, and see what outcome you come out with at the end of that year. And if it's, you've gained 8 percentile points, then use that then for the following year.
Correct, but maintaining the 15 uniform across ELA and math, but with a chance to evaluate to see if we, because the way I look at it, if we're shooting for 15 no matter what, right, ELA or math, and we hit it, we're hitting the outcomes. But if we look at the rate of outcome for the math and it does increase at a higher rate, then we know maybe we can adjust our goal. But if not, we can maintain at least at minimum the same rate that we're asking for the ELA.
What if we use the state math, which is a little bit higher than ours? What if we go 15% above the state math for 24, 25? That bumps it up a couple right there.
It does. The only thing is it's not our data per se. When you set goals, you're supposed to use, best way to say it is when you want to go from this weight to this weight and using the average of everybody's weight in the family versus your weight, then it's not necessarily your data, it's the state's data. So when you set goals,
Yeah.
when you set goals, it's typically supposed to be your data.
The other way of looking at this is, yeah, if you want to keep the 15th percentile gain by 28, 29, but yet you're making 8 percentile point gains in that first year, you may want to tweak the goal at that time to keep consistent with that 8 percentile.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's, the goals are dynamic. They're not etched in stone for that 3-year period. You can always come back, revisit them, is what I suggest, and then make changes accordingly.
Well, whatever everybody wants to do, I just think, I was kind of going from what Principal Spell told me at the last meeting about that we were at the same as the state on all of the numbers that he was presenting. And I thought, well, we're not the same on this one. So that's not that much higher, 26.5 over 24.2, but whatever people think. Just a suggestion.
So there, we've contracted out with AIS. We know what districts have accomplished over the last 2 years. So they're ramping up the professional development that they're providing districts. We've asked them to do that regionally as opposed to going to a location like Albuquerque where it's difficult to travel to, so that you could engage more of your staff in the training. So we're hoping that by the changes we've made, based on conversations we've had with leadership at the schools, that that's going to accelerate math instruction and math test scores at a higher level than 2 percentile points better than what the state is scoring. You can see the state is not doing very well in math as districts. So we need to ratchet up our game in the area of mathematics in our state.
Definitely. And by what format, do we just ourselves decide every year we're going to double check these at a certain point in the year, or do you guys guide us with that?
My recommendation is the goals are probably going to remain fairly constant. There may be some tweaking like the percentile, the percentages,
Right.
but the goal for itself will pretty well remain the same. What will change are the action plans to address the goals. So every year, I recommend that be done in the March, April timeframe, because that's when you begin preparing your budgets.
Right.
And you, the board, are going to be making decisions. What money do we need to allocate towards the strategic plan that we have in place to make it successful? So here's what I would recommend to the board is allow us to tweak the goal to read in the way that Superintendent Layton suggested. Send those back to you. It's my understanding that you may wish to hold your community meeting before finalizing your plan.
Yes.
If that's the case, then I will send the milestones that need to be completed in order for us to hold that community meeting. So that's going to be at least 3 to 4 weeks by the time you get the correspondence out. I will get all of that information to Superintendent Layton by this coming week. And then that's where you all will have the opportunity to invite community members to attend that community meeting. What we'll need from Dr. Layton will be who are those invitees, and then you'll need to open it up to the rest of your community for anyone else that wishes to attend. I will send a template letter, like I mentioned at the last meeting, to Dr. Layton. And that is a letter that then will be going out either from Superintendent Layton's office, or you individually may wish to hand deliver those to individuals that you know within the community.
We agreed on March 14th, and today's the
March
4th.
14th?
That's right. There's only 10 days. We need to tell people right away so they can make plans.
I will send that to you tomorrow.
So knocking on everyone's door.
So I'm done with my piece. If you're okay with what I've presented by way of goals, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ortiz, and she'll speak to you about the guardrails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Happy to be here.
Good evening.
Once again, to see you all, board members. Excited that you're moving forward and that you're spending so much time on this really good work. I think it's, you guys are all on the right track. The last spreadsheet that you have in your packet lists a few goals on there, 3 goals. And part of your homework, I think the last time you were asked to look at chapter on guardrails, chapter 8, and look at some of the information there in terms of how the guardrails were done, how they should be done. And we've talked about guardrails before. This is not new to you, but just trying to refresh you. The information, the criteria necessary for guardrails is on page 125. I see one of the board members looking for it. There's examples of guardrails, chapter 8 on page 129 specifically. So you can flip to that page and see some examples of guardrails. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you several examples for guardrails, and you will pick and choose the guardrails that best meet your needs from the board perspective. And then you probably will hold on to those decisions that you've looked at today, the consensus that you've reached, and weigh those against the community forum that you will have coming up, because you want to make sure that your guardrails reflect not just the board's position, but what the community tells you. And the community may reveal during those community meetings something additional that you all may not have thought of, or that just hadn't been put down on paper. So we're going to see different examples. So one of the pieces of homework was to look at the guardrail information in the book. And then also, I think what was sent to you was some information and some connections to Socorro School District, and I think Peñasco and Ruidoso, and some of the guardrails that they have. I'm going to read some of them for you now, because what I want to do is to present to you lots of options for guardrails. And as you hear me read some of them to you, because they're not all necessarily in your packet, the meat of what we have for you is in that one-page spreadsheet, and we'll go through that also. But my goal here today is to provide you with options of guardrails that that are based on your core values, your vision, and your mission, that may address the needs that you have. And as Mr. Chavez said, you want to do 3 to 5. The more you do, the more complicated it gets for everyone, but 3 to 5 guardrails. So keep an ear open as we read through the guardrails as to which ones you think might be valuable and useful. So, and as you know, in drafting guardrails, they need to be clear. They need to be understood by everyone that is reading them. Clearly, the superintendent needs to understand them, and you, the board members, need to make sure they're clear enough to be understood by all. They need to be measurable and monitorable, so that you can, as you move through the monitoring reports, that you can weigh them against what's being presented to you by your superintendent. And then the guardrails clearly need to be under the authority and the purview of the superintendent. You cannot establish a guardrail that the superintendent has no authority to implement or ability to enforce. So those are the 3 main areas. Again, as you're looking in your grade on their behalf book, those are listed in there. So I'm going to read to you. Oh, and on the listing that you have up there, those are 3 guardrails that are part of the spreadsheet, and I'll explain to you where they came from and how we got to that point. But what I want to do now is read to you some of the guardrails from Socorro, and there's not many, Socorro and Roswell. And as we go through that, one of the guardrails will address President Flores' question earlier about social emotional health. And so you might want to hone in on that one, and that could be something that you all use that's not part of the one-page spreadsheet that I presented to you. So does that make sense? Questions? Okay. This is Socorro, and Socorro has really done well in this process. They've had the community meetings, they've adopted their goals, they've adopted their guardrails, they've had, at least that I know of, a couple of monitoring sessions. They've also even utilized the Grade on Their Behalf evaluation instrument for their superintendent. They've evaluated the board, self-evaluation and an open meeting. So they've done a lot. So they are a good model for what can be done. And they're a good model from the standpoint that they're a rural community in the state of New Mexico that we all can relate to. So there's three goals, 3 guardrails rather. 1, and this deals with professional learning communities. Very simple. The superintendent shall ensure that professional learning communities are implemented effectively. Now, the difference between Socorro and what A.J. Crable says in his book, and what I'll read from another district, is Socorro wrote those in a positive manner. A.J. Crable talks about the superintendent shall not. So these are written in a different way. They still work, but it's up to what this board chooses to do. If you want to write them in a positive way, or with the shall not in a more restrictive way. It's your choice. The second guardrail, and this is the one that could be the social emotional wellness connection that you all are looking for. And it deals with whole child focus. The superintendent shall ensure the curriculum and extracurricular activities offer a balanced focus on academics, arts, career exploitation, and personal growth and wellness opportunities. That might address your concern. It could also be tweaked, and I can give you a copy of this if you need that. And the third guardrail that Socorro has is the superintendent shall not, now this one is written with a shall not allow decisions regarding programs and resource allocations to be made without adequate input from the board, staff, parents, guardians, and community members. And you can see there are three guardrails pretty much cover, they have 4 goals, really cover the 4 goals that they have. So each of these guardrails can be applied to each of the goals as the superintendent is presenting data to you in his monitoring report. Okay? So Roswell has 5 guardrails. These again are written will not, shall not. The superintendent will not propose major decisions to the board without first having engaged students, parents, community, and staff. Number 2, the superintendent shall not allow campuses to ineffectively implement PLTs, professional learning teams. The PLT's focus must include standards of alignment, assessment, and cycles of continuous improvement. So this is one of their big concerns, and they put it in a guardrail. Number 3, the superintendent shall not allow the achievement of any Ruidoso Municipal School District student, regardless of their academic achievement, to be diminished by the lack of the full support and participation of that student's parents or guardian. This pulls in the parents in the community. Every parent and guardian will be welcomed and encouraged to be partners in their school's community. And I hear community and culture is a big issue for Tau, so this might be something you might choose to consider. Number 4, the superintendent shall not allow the district to operate without an accountability system for policy implementation that includes expectations, staff evaluations, performance, transparency, continuous improvement, and safety policies and procedures. They have a lot covered in this one. They had a lot of concern about policies. And the last one that Ruidoso has, every student will have a well-rounded education with co-curricular opportunities, including career tech and college readiness, integrated into the school experience through highly engaging student-led classrooms. Ruidoso's guardrails are very meaty and they have a lot in them and maybe something you choose to do, but it gives you examples of the direction that you can go. Okay, so those are 2 districts that, and I think some of these were part of an attachment to an email that was sent to you, samples from these districts. But I have them here if you need to look at them as well. So what we proposed for you is the same process that Mr. Chavez used in developing the goals. We looked at your core value and mission statements and pulled the goals that Mr. Chavez presented to you and had AI come up with guardrails individually for those 3 areas. That's what that spreadsheet that you have in front of you outlines. Again, different options, different language, but possibilities of guardrails that you could choose to use based on your goals of mathematics, literacy, science, social study, the arts, health, and career-connected learning. So I'm not sure the best way to do this. We'll start one goal at a time, like the mathematics goal, and read through those. And then what I've also added here is not just sample goals. I said goals. Read through the guardrails. There's sample guardrails, but also there's some information that gives you some of the way that you could be monitoring, because that has to be going to be the next step in the process. Before I go into the table, any questions about what I've shared with the 2 previous districts? Something that may have stuck out that you would like to discuss?
What I think would be helpful to us, or at least me, is if we could ask Samantha to make copies of Socorro and Ruidoso so we could work off those 2 as we're trying to hone this down. Thank you, Ms. Samantha. Do you mind?
I'm not sure, but quicker just to do, they're 1 page each. I'd be quicker maybe. This one is the Ruidoso, and just the front page, this would be a.
Thank you.
Guardrails are on the bottom of that.
Thank you, Ms. Lily May. Thank you.
Good suggestion, because I think it's easier, especially when we're dealing with so much meat and information.
Yeah,
We're all visual.
we are.
Well, yeah.
It's good to have it as a reference.
Yes.
Also go back
It
to
is some of those where there's no shame in borrowing other
Oh, no.
districts. There is no.
Well, it's, in the work that school
Especially if
district.
They've already gone through
Yeah,
some of this.
the ones that you read from Socorro were really impressive, I thought, and simple.
Good.
And they're also in our conference. So this is, like you said, Mr. Chavez, we play them when we were runners up for the basketball state championship. So no, it's relative because it's, it's the same size. I mean, it's a little warmer, obviously, but
Lily, what, the table that you have, you had a blue one in front of you.
I had Samantha actually print that out.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
so we
was
don't
kind
have
of
it in our
ahead. yeah.
packet?
Yeah,
Okay,
you guys, yeah. And sometimes she copies things for you guys, but I'm totally visual. I don't like to spend too much time in front of the screen. I like to look.
yeah, so do
look
I,
At the newspaper.
so do I, but so when you said a table, and what are you looking at?
Chart,
Okay,
chart
right.
table. It's in your packet.
This one?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay, his was blue, and I'm like, I don't have a blue one.
This printer is much better than mine. Mine is just black and white. So
That
did you all want to
explains
take a
it.
break?
Special treatment king over there.
Do we need to take a break? Let's, okay, want to do that while you get your copies?
Do we need to make a motion for that, Mark?
I don't know. I'm asking the, Mr. President.
King wants a 5-minute break.
We started.
I know, but he wants one. He's out of here.
To get your coffee, okay.
Go get your coffee and come back.
We're getting copies made of those 2 sheets, so you'll have them with you, and then that way you can look at those
That'd be good.
as we move forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And so, Mr. Chavez, a question for you. If we go through each of the goals and we go through the guardrails, the goal and the guardrails separately, do we want to have them come to some consensus at each goal, or do we want to read everything and then have them have a discussion to determine how to move forward?
Here's what I would recommend. You're together here this afternoon. You have a lot of information in front of you. I would suggest that you look at and try to come up with a prioritized list of what are your 3 to 5 guardrails that you would like to see as part of your strategic plan. And those would then be what guides the superintendent and his executive team as to the work that they need to do and make preparations for as they look at progress monitoring. The one that is not listed there, because as I mentioned earlier, what you have in that table are all related to content. So if you want a social emotional learning goal, then that would be something that you can either borrow from one of the school districts that you heard Ms. Ortiz mention, or come up with one of your own.
Ms. Ortiz, quick question.
Mr. Chavez.
Is there a recommendation on a range of how many guardrails there could be? I know with goals there are, but with guardrails,
Yes,
is it the same or is it
3 to 5.
3 to 5?
3 to 5 guardrails. The high priority ones that you feel are critical for your operations, those that will speak to more of the board's concerns. And of course, you're going to weigh whatever you come up with today with your community forum results, because you want to be mindful and sensitive to what the community tells you, and your guardrails may or may not reflect some real high priority area that the community provided for you. So you want to think about that.
So are you, Lily May, are you asking that we do 5 total guardrails, or if I'm hearing correctly? Or do we do guardrails specific to each goal?
You can do 5, no more than 5 total guardrails. You clearly, some of the guardrails overlap goals. Some are more general in nature and overlap goals. The way this is set up, and the reason why you see some guardrails attached to the goal, is because we asked AI, as Mr. Chavez indicated earlier, look at your core values, mission, and statement, and look at the goals that he presented to you, and come up with guardrails for math, literacy, and social science. And this is what they gave us. So as you know, AI, based on what you ask it, you can get multitude of ideas and suggestions. And this we brought for you because we wanted to give you guys options. Back to the comment earlier, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's great information out there. We're trying to help you move forward quickly, trying to help you see different options and then come up with what works best. You come up with what works best for you all. So, any other questions?
I was just making a comment that, looking at Socorro's goals, they talk about, they kind of align with, our goals in the top 2 there with literacy and numeracy, with numeracy being mathematics. I also believe that we need to have a goal to ensure that our students are post-secondary ready. So they have a goal 3 is post-secondary readiness. And then I believe, and we're seeing it every day, student engagement and well-being, I firmly believe needs to be a focus of this district. Um, um,
And obviously, if the goal says percent of 6th to 12th grade students, you'd need to start it earlier for them to feel safe by 6th grade. That's something we should start now, preschool for sure.
Yeah, but just looking at Socorro's, I kind of,
I
you know,
like-
I like how they, rather than numeracy, we could put mathematics.
Mhm. Do we owe them money if we use their whole sheet?
This is public information. You can get it off their website, and so it's very useful.
On that wellness thing, Mark.
Well, I'm glad that you're seeing some opportunity to use some of the other districts' information and goals. Shall I go, Mr. President, through the
Yeah, please proceed.
table, and then you all can have a very rich, I'm sure, curious and exciting conversation about what direction you might be wanting to go with your guardrails? So what we got for mathematics were 3 guardrail suggestions, and these are all written in this position of the superintendent shall not reduce or limit access to grade level mathematics instructions for any student group to pursue short-term goals. Number 2, the superintendent shall not implement practices that track, exclude, or delay students from grade level math without board reported data. Number 3, the superintendent shall not allow inequities in math instructional time, course access, or supports across schools or student groups without board awareness. And if you use any of those goals, some of the primary board monitoring evidence would be the MASH proficiency and growth trends, the enrollment and access to grade level coursework, and comparisons of instructional time, course offerings across schools. So literacy, AI suggests 3 goals. Number 1, narrow instruction to tested literacy skills in ways that reduce access to content-rich learning. That includes science, social studies, arts, etc. The second goal, a guardrail, adopt literacy practices or assessments not aligned. The superintendent shall not adopt literacy practices or assessments not aligned to state standards or board-approved measures. And the third one, the superintendent shall not allow inequitable access to high-quality literacy instruction based on language status, disability, or school placement. Because of your culture-rich community, that might be something you consider. And the primary board monitoring evidence for these 3 would be the literacy proficiency and growth overall by the subgroup, evidence of content-rich instruction across the grades, and alignment of assessments to the standards. And then the last one that encompasses social science, social studies, arts, health, and career-connected learning. They listed 4 specific guardrails. The first one, the superintendent shall not reduce or diminish student access to any well-rounded content area to prioritize other subjects. The second guardrail suggested, the superintendent shall not disproportionately restrict or eliminate well-rounded opportunities for any student group or school site. The third guardrail, the superintendent shall not allow instructional time, staffing, or course availability in these areas to decline over time without board knowledge. This is a good transparency language, if that's what you're interested in. And then the fourth one, the superintendent shall not rely on practices or assessments not aligned to state standards or board-approved measures. And the primary board monitoring evidence, enrollment, participation, and proficiency trends by content area, access comparisons by subgroup and school site, and standards aligned performance indicators. Again, more examples for you to look at. Any questions on those? Again, at least 3, probably no more than 5, and guardrails, because you want them to be, the superintendent to be able to implement them. If you have more than that, it gets very cumbersome and may be unmanageable. You can renew these annually, as Mr. Chavez said earlier, if the goals the guardrails are embedded already in the structure and institutionalized in how you do your work. Maybe you could add an additional guardrail the following year if you've got one of the guardrails that's working quite well. But in any case, you can look at them each year to make sure if you need to adjust them. And of course, whatever you look at today, and whatever you decide on, perhaps moving forward today, you clearly want to measure those and weigh those against your community forum that you have, because that's going to be very important to gauge the pulse of the community and to make sure that you're moving in the direction they want you to move. Questions? So at this point, this is where I would ask you to, as the board, to maybe have some dialogue about some of the guardrails, or if you have any questions about some specific ones, and maybe start looking at what 5 you might, just in terms of taking forward to future board meeting conversations and to weigh against the community results, maybe decide which 5 might be possible candidates for action in the future.
My only comment is that I keep hearing you say clear and measurable, and the fewer words, probably, the more simple we can keep those guardrails, the clearer and more measurable they might be, especially with the community looking at them. If you have too many words, sometimes you get lost in the words.
Comments from any of the board members regarding what jumps out that might be something to be listed on, and we could, if you come to some level of agreement on some of them, we can take notes and take them back and then shoot them back to you.
I'm watching him. I know the way he works. He's dissecting. I know exactly how you work. When you are honed in like this, he's gonna have it specific, and I know the way you hunker down.
I feel that in looking at, believing in not reinventing the wheel, and that other districts have put a lot of thought to what we have in front of us, and not trying to, find the easy way out and be a copycat. But I think guardrail 1 on Rio Dosos is important. And we've experienced this over the course of many superintendents, in the sense that guardrail 1 from Rio Doso says the superintendent will not propose major decisions to the board without first having engaged students, parents, community, and staff. I think that, the engagement of students, parents, community, and staff is important. And what I like about that one is it talks about engagement, and bringing a decision to the board. That ensures that the superintendent, any superintendent, has first done their homework and brought forward, this is why we're doing it, this is why it's needed. And with many decisions, you're not going to make everybody happy. There's going to be, a lot of chirping in the community when decisions are made. But I think that's an important one about engaging our community as a whole. I like that. And then, a lot of these guardrails, we got to limit them to some, but they're all very important. And I believe that guardrail number 1 from Rio Doso aligns somewhat to guardrail number 3
Me too. I thought so too.
with Socorro's.
Mhm.
So would like to try to encompass a guardrail that brings guardrail 3 from Socorro and guardrail 1 from Rio Doso together as one of our guardrails, because it talks about, in regards to Socorro's, with adequate input from the board, staff, parents, guardians, and community members. The superintendent shall not allow decisions regarding programs and resource allocations to be made without the input from the board, staff, parents, guardians, and community members, as where the other guardrail does speak to that and talks about, guessing in guardrail number 1 from Rio Doso talks about engagement prior to bringing it to the board. And guardrail 3 on Socorro's talks about getting input from the board, in sequence with the other groups. So I think guardrail 3 and number 1 from, guardrail 3 from Socorro, number 1, I would like to be one of our guardrails, just tied together. About, it's labeled collaboration and community engagement. I think that's important. We talk about collaboration quite frequently in a lot of the work that I do throughout the community and engagement. I would like to see a guardrail such as that. And then I do like the whole child focus as a guardrail in regards to Socorro's. Kind of ties into number 5 to me on Ruidoso's about every student will have a well-rounded education with co-curricular opportunities, including career tech and college readiness, integrate into the school experience through highly engaged in student-led classrooms. And same thing on referencing back to Socorro, talks about career exploration. I really like Socorro's guardrail too. And that's what I have so far, I guess, for my major input.
The one thing I thought, I don't know how it fits in with the rest, but in Rio Doso's number 3, the one, how it increases that, the interaction and full support from parents and guardians. I think sometimes parents and guardians sometimes they don't feel so encouraged to be part of things. Just because of security now, they can't even go in the school without, they can't drop by and say hi to their kid and stuff. There's a lot of things that can't happen now that used to happen with parents being able to visit their kids in the class and stuff. I don't know, maybe that can be covered in another one, but I know that anything that you can do to get parents to get involved will help them get them to school and feed them, understand the whole
Well, I know we don't want to make it
complexity.
too wordy. So guardrail 1 with Rio Doso says the superintendent will not propose major decisions to the board without first having engaged students, parents, community, and staff. Maybe tying in some language that says ensuring every parent and guardian is welcomed and encouraged to be partners
Something like that, to
in their
encourage
child
them to participate,
whole community.
encouraging current participation or something.
Are you rewording number 1 or are you pointing to a second
Adding
guardrail?
to-
I was rewording number 1.
Okay,
Rio Doso's, just not saying that it has to be like this, but
could you repeat that for me? please?
so number 1 on Rio Doso, so taking all of number 1, the superintendent will not propose major decisions to the board without first having engaged students, parents, community, and staff, period. Ensuring every parent and guardian will be welcomed and encouraged to be partners in their child's school community. Now we could do some wordsmithing on all of that.
I actually like that wordsmithing because what you did, President Flores, is of course, it is the board's guardrails for me, but I like the way you combined all of 1 and the last sentence of 3, but using the verb of ensuring.
Mm-hmm. I like that, Mark, a lot. Anyone down at this end want to say anything?
No, we're listening. I'm listening.
We're gonna punt the ball down your end next.
Okay, well, that's good. We've got number 1 and 3, suggested by President Flores that we'll read as he just stated, and I think I captured it all. We also have President Flores suggesting that we combine Socorro number 2 and Ruidoso number 5. Did you want us just to combine them as best we can with brief language, or did you have something in mind you wanted to share for us to capture now?
And I love on Socorro's how Goal 4 talks about student engagement and well-being. I think that's I think what this place looks for. Our community certainly.
And then, I think one thing the board needs to make a decision too is, there's the verbiage of shall not,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the superintendent shall, ensure, like in guardrail 2. I don't know if we want to have, they're all shall nots.
Actually, 3 is the only one that says shall not. The rest of them are all shall on Socorro.
That's certainly your prerogative to choose how you present it. Mr. Craybill in his book states shall not, but as you've seen, other districts do not do that, and whatever works best for the board, it's certainly your prerogative to move in that direction. As long as it's clear and understood by all is the key.
I would use shall whenever we can, but we might need to use shall not in some, we might need to use shall not in some cases, but I prefer shall in a
I like the
positive
word shall, too.
direction.
I really like number 5, President Flores.
In which, on
because,
which one?
um,
Riodoso?
Yes, and Riodoso, because it, it also links, I think, that something that was mentioned in our last session, and that was how important it is for UNM. I mean, to be linked in some way with UNM, and I like that. It says, including career tech and college readiness integrated into the school experience through highly engaging student-led classrooms.
So Susan, look on Socorro's goal 3. Does that, that talks about post-secondary readiness also? It's a question whether that would be a goal or a guardrail, I guess.
I think this 5 is like a goal.
I like 5 as well, and it
I
should
really
read
like
this
5.
superintendent shall ensure every student will have a well-rounded education with co-curricular opportunities, including career tech and college readiness, integrated into the school experience through highly engaging student-led classrooms. But in all these goals, I do want to make sure that we incorporate a good focus on, the last part of guardrail 2 from Socorro that talks about personal growth and wellness. Maybe we could incorporate some personal growth and wellness into Riodoso's guardrail number 5.
Susan, why don't you compare Riodoso's 5 and the guardrail and Socorro 2? They're also kind of similar. The fewer words, the better. I keep saying that.
You guys are doing really good
'Cause
work.
we're gonna have to
Getting the notes
memorize
here.
them all, remember?
You're doing great work. I think as you move forward, you've got 3 that it sounds like, and I'll recap these in a minute once we finish getting input. But you're, I think, working to capture what is important, what is a priority area for your district, and that's the key.
When I'm thinking that through all this whole process, to see that the culture, the environment of our whole community can change by how we word all of this and implement them
We
for our
believe that.
students. And the community can embrace all of that. It's not just engaging, but embracing what we're trying so hard to put in place for the school system and for our children.
On number 5,
Mhm.
doing some wordsmithing here. Every student, so I'm going to read off Riodoso's and incorporate some of Socorro's guardrail too. So on number 5 on Riodoso, every student will have a well-rounded education through a focus or with a focus on personal growth and wellness opportunities, inclusive of co-curricular opportunities, including, so inclusive and including, I'm using two of the same words there, but it says including career tech and college readiness integrated into the school experience through highly engaged in student-led classrooms. I think if we could incorporate personal growth and wellness into Riodoso's number 5 guardrail, in my eyes would be,
What don't you like about Socorro's guardrail 2?
What
You
I,
don't like that one?
what I do like Socorro's, actually, Socorro's guardrail too. Reading the arts there, we're an art community here.
Mhm.
Um,
Personal
we
growth and
promote-
wellness.
what I like about, so it talks here, so it says, superintendent shall ensure the curriculum, I'm reading Socorro's, so the
Mhm.
superintendent shall ensure the curriculum and extracurricular activities offer a balanced focus on academics, arts, career exploration, and personal growth and wellness opportunities. What I like about is the college readiness here, and I speak to that from a personal example, and I've shared with Mr. Chavez here, when my daughters attended college, they were in the top of their class for the most part, and they get to college and they find that they have to take all these remedial courses, and it was a big eye opener that they weren't where they thought they were, and they weren't college ready.
Right.
They graduated with straight A's, making honor roll, and they were ready to tackle college, and I'm going to be successful, and they are. They've done really well, but they hit kind of like a roadblock when they got to college. It was like a rude awakening, man. Maybe I wasn't ready for college as I thought I was, so I really like college readiness
Mm-hmm.
in there.
Doesn't their
Mhm.
goal 3 satisfy that? We could add the word college, I guess. The thing that concerns me about 5 is we're promising things that probably aren't going to happen, like highly engaging student-led classrooms. That doesn't really happen here, that those students lead the classroom. It doesn't need to happen if the teachers are inviting enough.
So maybe we strike through highly engaged student-led classrooms, and it could read, every student will have a well-rounded education with co-curricular opportunities, including career and college readiness integrated into the school experience.
Yeah.
Um, and then somehow put
Yeah,
personal
like,
growth,
yeah,
Let's
that's
add
a
the
good
personal
point.
growth.
and then add personal growth and wellness at the end of that.
And you know
Bump
why
that
that's
up.
important,
Perfect, Mark.
President Mark? Because it just doesn't segregate those students. It encompasses all of them. To any one of the students that would want to. You don't have to be highly engaging students. It's all the students, all students.
So we'll just add, if we add personal growth and readiness to that and strike that bottom part.
And then I have a question. So co-curricular,
Integrated
what
into
does
the school
co-curricular mean?
experience Through.
Is that extracurricular?
That is correct. Co-curricular is for both
School
academic
experience and
and,
somehow add personal growth and
and
readiness to that.
sports. So co-curricular would be both men and women, ladies and boys, academic and athletics.
Oh, no, personal growth and wellness opportunities.
And I think as we speak to these, I would like to invite the superintendent to speak to, yes, the board sets these guardrails, but I would welcome your thoughts and input as well.
Oh,
So
excuse
don't
me, I
be
changed
hesitant
that.
or shy.
So we're setting guardrails and the community is for goals. Is that correct?
Yes, there are guardrails that will give the superintendent the areas that need to be protected and that shall not be deviated from. They're not directives because they're very general, and that's a very healthy and good thing for the superintendent to give him options. But they're guardrails on the goals that you will have approved.
Member King, if I may, it's like saying, here's the goal for math. Achieve this goal, just don't let this down. Don't let this go.
Right.
Or while you're achieving this goal, make sure this also happens.
I'm just trying to go back to our community involvement that we're going to be shooting for next week. What is the goal there again?
Well, both things, the goals, aren't we going to go over the goals and the guardrails with them and
Because I don't know if we,
build the strategic plan?
are we putting the wagon before the horse? Because these are great. I don't know,
I know what he's
like
saying.
if we're going to actually go to the community, we may, we're kind of already, we're setting like a template. I'm totally, I just want to make sure we're following this.
What comes first?
Yeah. And,
Chicken or the
and
egg?
I believe that in regards, Yolanda says something very on point. She says, each of us pick 5 people, and then also you have that letter of yours. So we have 5 personal, and Taos is that way. Sometimes people need a phone call. Hey, you know, Mr. Chavez, David, I want you to, we gotta, you know, if you can just, you know, heads up. And I know I have a couple of people I've already talked to, and they're, you know, some are going to have kids in the district, like in kindergarten. In fact, they are already one, and then one has already has a graduate who's, you know, he's in his career and he's a grandfather. But so I was just curious on our community involvement, how, like, is that the guardrails and goals? Then we then refine?
So President Flores, Board Member King, essentially the process that we traditionally follow is you do your community meeting first, and then everything flows from that community meeting. What you've, the process you're following works, but with the understanding that you may have to come back and redo some of the work you're engaged in presently.
Yeah, based on what they add.
Correct.
What is the format? Do we have our suggestions on big papers on the wall so the community knows what we've come up with so far? Or how do we translate that in that community meeting, please?
So the way I conduct a community meeting is they're going to identify what they perceive to be the highest ranked needs for the district.
Okay.
So the outcome that you'll get from that meeting, their perceptions of what they perceive to be the highest needs for your district.
Got it.
So I'm thinking that because you all are representatives of a certain segment of your community, you probably have the ear of your community that you serve. So I wouldn't think that you would be too far off of what will be identified as high yield needs by the community. If you're way off in terms of what you've provided thus far, I don't envision that happening. Your goals are global enough. Everyone's going to want their child to achieve math.
Right.
Everyone wants their child to be able to read, write, and spell. So those 3 are rather global goals. And then even the one on the fine arts, the social studies, the science, all parents want their kids to be successful in those 3 areas. The guardrails are what you want to protect, as Ms. Ortiz mentioned, with regards to each of those goals that you've identified. In other words, you do not want to allow any student not to be provided the same opportunities simply because they're an EL student or a special needs student. And you've identified that within the goals.
I agree with you, Mark, about we should put a hard stamp on that when they leave 12th grade. They should be ready to go on to
So
whatever
if-
they want to do. And so many kids that graduate from here have to do remedial work at college. You're right.
So while you all were busy with the guardrails, I took an attempt to come up with a readiness goal, which would be a goal 4,
Nice.
which would read, it may be a bit long and it needs to be cut down a bit, but by June of 2029, Taos Municipal Schools will increase the percentage of graduates who enroll in post-secondary education, training, military service, or the workforce within 12 months of graduation and who do not require remediation in their first year from the current baseline to at least 70% with measurable improvement each year. So you would need to probably, because you've not tracked that before, you would probably need to use this coming year as your baseline and then work from there and trying to get to that 70 percentile. But that was my attempt, President Flores, to get to what you were wanting as a post-secondary goal.
Mr. Chavez, President Flores, Vice President Sprague. So part of NMVISA scores does have metrics for college and career readiness participation. And I don't know if that's a data metric that we can use as a litmus, but it does exist as part of the college and readiness participation that the state provides. It does have some year, and I'm looking at the data right here, but nonetheless, as compared to the state, it's something to consider. I think when you were looking at what's the baseline? These are baseline scores that are shared in Innovistas. But Renetta?
President Flores, Dr. Layton, that baseline there is tracking our students who are participating in CTE courses for the high school. So it wouldn't give us too good of a baseline for us to take a look at how they're tracking it after they've graduated from the high school.
So then we would need to create a separate baseline
Yes.
altogether based on, that would be the question, right?
Yes, correct.
And just in general, I far prefer the way that Socorro's goals are outlined with fewer words. The one here on this sheet, I think it's just too wordy. I personally do. Anyone can weigh in, but
I think real quick, so just my thoughts, throwing them out there for
Mhm.
the board to hear. And so it's important for me as a board member, and being a parent that's graduated students from Taos High School and myself from Taos High School, and coming from a family of educator and a grandmother, a school board member, that it was always talked about, going to college. I never went to college. I joined the military, which was very beneficial to my life today. I think one of our guardrails should encompass ensuring, college and career readiness, because if you're teaching to that, your standards, you're going to set your standards high so that the kids are ready. If it's a career technical, and if it's college readiness. So I think we should have a guardrail around there, just my thoughts. And then another guardrail we need to ensure, and that kind of, will encompass curriculum, but we need to have a wellness guardrail. Again, because if our kids aren't well mentally and emotionally, they're not going to do well in school. And then another guardrail, with all due respect to our superintendent, is we need to have a guardrail that ensures that, going back to Rio Doso's guardrail number 1, that decisions will not be made without first engaging students, parents, community, and staff. So if we take those are 3 guardrails that we could encompass, find the right words that get us to our end goal. Is ensuring college and career readiness as being one of them. Superintendent not making major decisions without engaging with the community, students, parents, board, staff. And then third guardrail would be, ensuring, personal growth and wellness and social emotional learning. So first of all, you have the decision making up top. We're not going to make any decisions we don't have buy-in first and we don't have input first. We're going to ensure college and career readiness through curriculum, through, lots of words there, but
In
anyways,
regards to grade level.
grade level, yeah.
Courses. Yeah, I
Grade-
think, hear what you're saying, and maybe we do like, in regards to pillars to think about, as Vice President Spray said, so when our community comes together, we can kind of say, this is a little summary of what the board is looking at, and then they can take it and run with it, then we come back again and refine it. And I think we're not doing the work twice, because we're almost setting it now, but we're gonna go to the community, and we really should, let them actually give us their input, and then we can take it and work it from there. So we have pillars of focus, so to speak, and then we take it from there, because ultimately it's the board that's gonna, refine this. this information. And I like this. I think this is great for us to, in regards to Londa said, read chapter 7. Now we can read chapter 8. Yeah, because you aren't. It's fine. It's all good. But we'll read chapter 8 and just be that much locked in when we do meet. And I think it's great because it was great to read it again. And we can go back and read chapter 8 and 7 both. And then I think we'll be really moving in accordance on point.
Whatever guardrails that we do decide to employ, I would really like it if we could put it in a positive way, saying the superintendent shall, and use the word not, so if we need to on some of them. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I think it's just much more, let's move on, let's change, let's get better, let's, not all this punitive kind of sounding thing. Some of them could be hard stop nods, but.
So President Flores, Vice President Spray, that's your option.
I'm just suggesting it.
You can have them read in a positive rather than a negative manner. To the point of Mr. King, of the community meeting, because of the way that you all have selected to approach this with a community meeting after the work that you've done, it might behoove you to maybe President Flores, if at the very beginning of that community meeting, you could just give a very short overview of the work that the board has already done. And I will then follow up with, we're seeking affirmation based on the work that we'll do here this evening as to whether what the work the board has done is aligned with your sentiments and feelings. So we're going to be asking you this evening to identify the highest ranked needs and then proceed from there. I think that would kind of set the stage and plant the seeds, if you would, from the community as to what you're really wanting to get from them. It's not necessarily to anoint the work that you've done, but more so to consider that as they're engaging and identifying those needs. That would be a way of approaching the community meeting. A suggestion.
Mr. Chavez, I have a question real quick on, because I really do like number 1 as well, because it involves more than just the narrative of only these people are making the decision, right? It's involving everybody. When it says major decisions, and going back to Ruidoso, I think y'all already worked with Ruidoso, correct? On this one?
We've worked with Ruidoso. Is that your question? We've worked with Ruidoso at the very onset, back 4 years ago. And that's the work that you see here. We're going back to refresh their action plans. We're going to do that probably in a couple of weeks. So that they're not going to they may redo the goals. I don't know that they will. I think they may want to add one more goal. They only have 2, the literacy and the math goal. And they may want to add a 3rd one. They talked about that. But for the most part, I think what they're going to be wanting to do is revisit their vision, mission, and the core values, and then look at their goals, see if they want to reword the goals, come up with 3 new ones. So that's the work that we're going to do with them.
Was there any definement of what those major decisions are so that it aligns with what those decisions are brought to the board and what those decisions are day to day?
So what we did is I had a community meeting there at the very onset, and then that drove the rest of their work. They have since come back and they were able to do their own, but they structured their community meeting a bit different than how I handled it, because I think they were ready for 2.0 of that community meeting. So they really went back, shared with them the successes that they'd had, and wanted to learn from the community. What is it that you would see us wanting to do over the next 3-year period? And that's going to, in large part, inform the goals that they will then develop.
I think I meant, and I'm sorry if I didn't mean it clearly, just, was there any definition of what those major decisions were, delineating between?
That's the work that we're going to do here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, and regards to your comment, Superintendent, so then if you look at, Socorro's guardrail 3, it talks about maybe we don't need to have major decisions, maybe it's the word major, but the superintendent will not propose. But-
Human Rio does so.
So
Socorro's
Socorro
number
says the superintendent shall not allow decisions regarding programs and resource allocations to be made without adequate input from the board, staff, parent, guardian, and community members.
So that one kind of aligned it a little bit more rather than just general.
That's more regarding like programs and resource allocations, like we're gonna take money from this and spend it over here, or.
What you're noticing there is guardrail 3 from Socorro is a little clearer about the kinds of decisions.
Yes.
Then Rio Dosa is very general. So it could be, you've indicated that you like number 1, and we could use the verbiage regarding what types of decisions from Socorro into Rio Dosa's number 1. We can do that. So I've been taking notes here, and I hope I captured most of what you're doing. It sounds like there's a clear leaning towards Rio Dosa's guardrail 1 and 3 that deal with decisions and combining those. Sounds like there's a clear leaning towards Socorro's number 2 and Rio Dosa's number 5. One deals with wellness, the other deals with college readiness. And then Mr. Chavez suggested another guardrail. And then now we're fine-tuning the language that is incorporated in Rio Dosa's number 1 and number 3 regarding the decisions. What I can do for you is go back and give different runs at combining the ones that you've suggested to combine, and developing them in brief language, and developing them with the shall verbiage as opposed to the shall not, and just give you different options. One of them, I know you talked about focusing on number 5 from Medoso, focusing on art. We can have AI give us a guardrail that focuses number 5 on art specifically, and then I can have it do it on wellness and other areas, just to give you different options, and then you can look at all these options and make your decisions. As a board member, my opinion for your community session, I wouldn't have the guardrails out there. This is a working session for you to think about what you might think is important, and then the community probably does want to see your goals. But I would keep the guardrails and then listen to what they have, and then adjust what you have developed today and add to whatever the community. That's my personal opinion. I don't know what Mr. Chavez thinks about that.
You're on point. Again, it takes me back to kind of like the 3 guardrails that I think we need to find, from my opinion, and welcome the board's input and yeas or nays, but I think we should have a guardrail in regards to decision-making, ensuring that there's adequate input and engagement from the community. That's important because it informs the superintendent. It'll save him his job. It'll save the board from a lot of heat in the community. It'll make sure that the parents are heard, the grandparents are heard. Everybody is a stakeholder is involved in that decision-making process. I think that needs to be a guardrail. I believe, again, college and career readiness, which will have a tie-in with curriculum. You know, if you have the proper curriculum and opportunities for career opportunities, college readiness is important. And then again, you probably heard it from me, and you're going to continue to hear from me on it, is I believe we really need to have a focus somewhere in here, not just add it to add it, but have a focus on the social emotional learning in there, because our community suffered from it. I think we can all speak to it without getting into it, and we see it. People from it's affected our community very, very much, and we need to make sure our students are emotionally and mentally nurtured, because when they get out into the real world, it's even more brutal than what they experience as a child. And so I think that's important to me, is in capturing decision-making and engagement and input, curriculum, college and career readiness, and social emotional learning, social emotional wellness, um, all of that.
I think I've captured quite a bit of that. I think I can send back to you, to your superintendent, and you, President Flores, some options of different guardrails that focus on those 4 areas. And then you can keep those and look at them as you have your community meeting. And I'll be happy to work with you after your community meeting to help you fine tune and redefine the guardrails as you see fit. Any further questions?
Okay.
I think our core values, Richard Chavez and also Lily May, I think that reading this is going to be huge for the community and our community meeting, because that, I think it sets a template of we've got the ethics, excellence, innovation, equity, and empowerment. It's got a vision statement, a mission statement, then because I think we kind of see that we could be. I think we could get some powerful information from the community. I know we will. I know people. We have an amazing community. That's why we live here and love it here. So it should be interesting. I think this would be, I think, is a nice template to actually get us where we want to get. I think this is work that's already been done, and we know it's not a perfect world, but I think we'll find people to able to chime in and get us. Sure. And then we can tweak it from there. And knowing, and I appreciate you guys sharing this with us, because we have this now. We'll go back to it. And I think we'll be even more, it'll be more impactful for everyone and meaningful.
To add to Board Member King's real quick, Mr. Travis, I really like, you have identified and pretty on point also to, our goals. We definitely want, I think the state is struggling, we're struggling with mathematics and literacy. And then, down at the 3rd goal, it encompasses a more broad range. And, speaking about the arts are in there, health, physical, mental health, science, social studies. Right now, we're in a form of social studies with governance. That's what we're doing today. And career connected learning. So I thank you for your work on helping to identify, some goals that are what I feel hits what we're working towards. Now, once we hear back from the community, as stated, we'll probably come back and say, hey, well, we'll either add, subtract, or make it more comprehensive.
So what I can do is I can take the work that you've completed. I will get together with Superintendent Layton, reword the goals in accordance with how he stated them, shorten the goal to read a little clearer for the community. I will place that on a template that we use and put draft on that. Maybe we have that as a handout for the community
And
whenever.
this.
Yes, this will be a part of the template.
Mhm.
Have the vision, mission, core values, and then you'll have your 3 goals on that template. And then if President Flores, if you'd like, at the very beginning, have some time just to share with them, this is the work that we've done thus far. And then once you turn it over to me, I'll guide the work of identifying the highest ranked needs as they perceive them to be. And then I will write up a report. Once that report is completed, we can come back in another work session like this, and you can assess as to, are we on point with what we've already developed, or do we need to tweak what we've developed to better align with the community sentiment?
Makes a lot of
And
sense.
with that being said, I'd be more than happy to speak. I'd also encourage our board members, maybe what we can do is set aside, if there's 5 of us, 5 minutes each. If they wish to or want to, I think it's important that the community hears from each of the board members, because I may not say something, or it's just important because they all have their own relationships with the various communities and different groups. So I don't want to, if need be, I'm here to be the voice, but I would feel better if they were, each had an opportunity, if they so chose, to speak briefly about our work and what they see their vision is.
I would hope that all 5 of you can attend the community meeting, which in essence is a work session of the board.
Mhm.
So you'll have to, as you well know, open it in the same way that you did here today. And then at that point, right after that, you all can make the comments that you deem as necessary and essential, and then turn it over to me at that point, and I will finish out the rest of the meeting.
President Flores, Vice President, members of the board, Mr. Chavez, real quick. For the community meeting, has it been your experience best to use a non-school site or is it a community location?
For the most part, it's been either in a cafeteria or an auditorium, or it's at the school facility.
Okay, that way I can arrange a time and a date on the 14th at a school site, maybe centralized to the community itself, if the board so chooses on that piece.
Are you thinking the gym?
It could be, yeah. I mean, we could, that's where I would just try to centralize with one of the school sites
Yeah.
based on also their after-school activities.
With that being said, we should try to get a good press release out with some good language that's inviting and kind of explains our intentions. The other thing is you get people out with food or snacks, so maybe we can, I know we have a tight budget, we're addressing that now. And if we were,
And we have it here. And I would like to have it here because this brings them,
Intimate.
the community in here to where they can see that what we're doing is for them, and maybe they'll just be drawn.
I think we're limited on what if we,
Nice.
I don't know if this is big enough.
what if,
You think so?
yeah, we wouldn't be, there's a, what is it, the occupant rating?
There's a
we're only-
sign in
Eh,
there.
I'll defer, Mr. Chavez, what's been your experience?
So what you're going to need, what we're going to need is, because of the subgroups that you're going to be inviting, we're going to have to be able to set up tables that will accommodate at least 10 people
37.
per tables.
Yeah.
So you'll need to have enough space for that. The acoustics need to be, I know even in a cafeteria, they're not all that great, but they're better than a gymnasium. It's been my experience.
Get a
Our
cafeteria.
cafeterias.
Is it? So do you
What
have
about
an
the middle
auditorium?
school?
Well, that wouldn't work either because we need to set up tables.
Middle school has a better
Yeah.
cafeteria.
Do
than
they?
I think
the high
maybe
school.
that may be the
What do you
way.
think?
So you need to have enough space to set up eight stations for at least 10 to 12 people per station. And we've had participation in districts from 30 in Springer to 110 in Ruidoso. So it just depends on how interested the community is with regards to providing their input.
And I'll check with the schools to see their after-school, or see what their schedules are, because in the May 14th, for the high school or the middle school, maybe some other engagement event, but I'll double check to make sure that our acoustics, everything can be set up for a good
Of
amount.
course, we could have we could have round tables, 10 of them in here, if you got everything else out of the way.
What do you
But,
think?
Our occupancy rating is 137.
Oh, 137 total? I doubt, we have trouble getting people to
That's
come
what I was
to
gonna
it.
say, we have to throw
Oh.
throw a fake on them, say that we're gonna make some big rational decision. And that's how we get them out. Then we
We're
get them in
gonna
here.
tell a secret, a gossip. We're gonna give a piece of gossip.
No, you do a door
But
prize.
if we do it not in this room, the middle school would probably, be, I think, far
Middle
better
school's a
than the
little-
high school.
And it's the location, I think, is better. It's on the bypass. I think people.
You know,
And if
Can you check on that,
I'll check out the schedules to make sure.
please? Thank you.
the finances are issued, there needs to be refreshments because we're going to have 3 different breaks. And they'll need some type of refreshment.
How long will they plan on, we should tell our invitees how long they'll have to be there.
It's 3 hours.
3 hours, okay?
is there any way we can, not that 3 hours is too much for me, but some people, that might be long.
That's stretching it.
'Cause I think the last time we talked about 5:30, correct? So that community would be there? So I
But
go
then,
from 5:30 to 8:30?
5:30 to 8:30, I will make every effort to try to get us out before that 3-hour period.
Then we need to have dinner
Yeah.
for people. If it's 5:30 to 8:30, you got, look at her.
Is-
See, look at her.
Is there a way that we can do when we send out this,
Bring your own bag
So-
lunch.
I'm thinking we need to put an ad in the Taos News, which is gonna cost some money. Maybe they could work with us and you hear this Taos News, work with us on a nice economic advertisement, but then get it on our school social media, school website. You know, if the superintendent could reach out to the town of Taos, we could put it also on our social media and on the website.
The county, they do
Um,
community school.
the
Yeah,
community
I'll have to I'll reach Taos News before this Thursday's,
Yeah,
because the 14th is a Thursday, so.
Taos County, through their avenues possibly. And then I was wondering if there was a way that we could see if we could get people to RSVP or if they plan to attend, so we can maybe get a number so we have adequate food. I don't want to have a bunch of, plan for a lot of people and we only get 30. And then, you know, obviously we could take the food to the nest or donate it with the snacks and refreshments. And then we don't get enough food.
Can we
Aren't
have
the board
a-
members, we're supposed to call people that we know that we would like to invite, is that
Correct.
correct? Well, then we can find out from them if they're coming or, they'll say yes or no when we call. them.
RSVP.
Then we can give Dr. Layton the roundup of how many and the names.
Yes.
We better get on it.
And the radio too.
Oh, radio? There you
Yeah,
go.
the radio. Why don't you get on the
You-
radio?
Do the public service announcements. We can do KTAL, there's quite a few stations.
KNCE. Oh,
So let me do this evening. When I get back, I'll send a letter that needs to go out. You'll need to put it on your letterhead and then signed by either Mr. Flores or you, Mr. Layton. I will also put it together, a PSA, that public service announcement. You can
Nice.
tweak that then and I'll have it in your hands by tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
the other thing I went to a meeting in Ranchos yesterday, an annual meeting of their neighborhood thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. And the way that they ran it was, they had everybody say something, but not all at the very beginning. So if you have all five, let's say 5 minutes worth, that's 20, it's almost half an hour. But if you can do it in a way that we intersperse, like you started out and then at some other point, something that's I'm passionate about, or Susan or whatever, just to make it a little more exciting
Well,
for
I
people.
don't think we all need 5 minutes. I said 5 minutes to kind of like, that's a cap.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
We-
that's fine. Just for like welcome.
I think 3 minutes is more than enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 3 minutes for public comment. We
Yeah.
just get up there, welcome and.
Like welcome, or
Yeah.
go home. You're gonna have bad ideas. You go home. Renetta, you'll be there, won't you? No, yes.
The other option.
Yes,
that
and in
would
fact,
be-
one of the reasons why she's been on this, because it focuses on instruction. It was one thing that I had let Renetta know a long time ago. Not being here is not an option.
Yeah, that's awesome. I noticed you've been here for a lot of this. Anyway, that's good if we all don't speak for
Mr.
5 whole
Papasi,
minutes,
we're
'cause,
saying
you know,
something, sir?
You know, if you want to break it up and not do it all at the front end, you could do it during the breaks. Some of you could speak during the breaks.
Yeah,
There you
just
go.
make
Yeah.
it fun. Keep
Yeah.
it fun.
Keep it flowing.
Mhm.
Listen, I want to thank you. It's a great meeting this afternoon. I think you accomplished a lot. So you pretty well have guardrails in place. You have your goals, I think, in place. We have a plan for the community meeting. Then the only work that needs to be done after that would be to come back and debrief on the community meeting, the report that I'll put together for you. Look at what you've developed to see if it aligns with the sentiment of the community. If it does, it's going to be a very short meeting. If it doesn't, and you feel like you need to add based on that input, then we'll take whatever time it needs to take to get that done. Then your work will be turned over to the superintendent and leadership team. I will come in a minimum of 1 meeting, probably 2 or 3, to finish the action plans, the strategies, the key performance indicators to bring back to you in another work session. That work session won't be as long as the ones you've had. It'll provide you an opportunity to provide input on the action plans that are being suggested by the leadership. And then once that is done, you then can approve your plan and move forward with it.
Didn't you say that at some point you're gonna come back to us with these kind of cleaned up so that we can look at the goals and guardrails
What
again?
you will see is
Cleaner
you'll see a clean version.
Okay,
So once Ms. Ortiz sends you what she perceives to have captured this afternoon,
right.
you all need to review those and say, you're right on, or please add this verbiage. You'll send them back to her. I
Okay.
will put together a final draft, and that's what you'll see as a final document. That's what we can have as a handout, if you would,
Nice,
for the individuals that attend the community meeting.
nice,
Will that work?
very nice.
Folks, thank you so much.
Thank
If I
you,
could, I
Lillian.
have something to say.
Yes, Ms. Board Member Concha.
Thank you, President Flores. In all the talk in the spirit of engaging students, parents, community, and staff, and I apologize, I'm late to the party. I missed the last session and most of this one, but is it my understanding that we're leading kind of with our ideas as far as the guardrails and then the goals set in place? And then bringing that to the community to my thoughts on this is, are we allowing the community to develop their own guardrails after they understand the relationship between guardrails and goals? Because these are great, of course, but we're also a very diverse and different community. And I'm just thinking, we definitely operate on our own level, but I just want to be sure that if we're inviting the community, staff, students, parents, and all of that, and they see guardrails or goals or things that are not listed, that they have, that they're not made to feel like these are the only options they have, like that they're able to feel heard should they have thoughts and ideas outside of what we're proposing to them is,
Mhm.
because like we said, we're engaging the community and all of that. And I just, like, for example, like, not really throwing them ideas, but there was a lot that, on this here, that we really didn't cover that were pulled from here. So things like, like one that stood out to me was like maybe a decline in areas without the board knowledge or something, just like some of these, you know what I mean? That I don't want to give them things to, like be
Louder.
negative about or anything, but I just want to make sure that we're not presenting, like there's a lot of work that the board has already done, of course, and it's great and combining these, but I just really don't want the community to feel like this is it and this is what you have to choose from. And, it's a deterrent if people were inviting the community and they already think, oh, it's a set agenda. When in fact, we want to really communicate to them that they are going to be heard. And if there's something that they don't see here, that they have the opportunity to voice, maybe a different guardrail or suggest a goal. Not that it's going to, take precedent or over anything, but I think being heard is super important. And I just don't want to present that these are our goals and our guardrails, but because coming in here, I think you clarified it for me when you said, the guardrails versus the goals and what they really mean. And I think that's important to get the community to understand what guardrails versus goals and what their level of input and interaction and all that is going to mean as far as what we're all doing, if that makes sense.
President Flores, Board Member Concha, you're spot on. What will happen at the community meeting is they'll have access to the work you've already done. And I'll preface the work that I'm going to be asking them to do on your behalf with this information is critical and important because it's going to influence what you have before you, which will be a draft form of the work you've done thus far. And the intent of the board will be to take the information that you share with us this evening, my comments to the group, and then come back and modify the work based on your input and your suggestions. So I think by letting them know that at the front end, that I as a community member would feel comfortable in knowing that at least my voice is going to be heard. They're going to listen to it, and then they're going to come back and make adjustments if necessary. I don't know if I'm addressing what your concern
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I think so. Like, yeah, again, like I said, because we already know that there was a number of things that the district has gone through that can be controversial, and it affects student outcomes and the relationship with the community, with the board, with staff, with just across, and so, again, being able to open it to the public to say like, yeah, you may not see something here that you agree with, or something that you have a different idea that you don't see listed, but you're welcome to share it, that way, again, we're just not presenting like this is the board's decision or whatever, and this is the only options that you have. But I just, want to, again, because we're leading with, in the spirit of engaging students, parents, community, like you said, that this is what happens first is we're doing the community meeting first, and then if we need to reevaluate, like what if we do come back and one of these that we've already combined or put together in wordsmith doesn't match the community, and for the community to see that reflected as well. Like they may say like, oh, this is what we see, how we feel, and then it's not reflected in any of our guardrails or goals, and then they're just like, well, then what was the point of the meeting,
I think President Flores, if I may, and Board Member Concha, I think that is your way of being transparent with the community, is we've done this work, but we also want to reaffirm that we're spot on with the work that we've done. And the input that they provide on that evening is going to be taken into consideration by you in another work session to take into account what you hear from the community.
I have a question to respond to what Board Member Concha is saying. What is the visual method that you record what the community tells you? Do you write it on big things on the wall, or do you write?
No, we'll
It's
need
important that they see
a
that.
projector,
Okay,
and it'll be up on a screen.
okay.
So as they identify the needs,
So they'll see that
I have an administrative
Mhm.
assistant that keeps that in, and they'll be able to see it.
perfect. That visual, I think, is really
Yeah.
important.
And then once you prioritize by peer group, they'll be able to see that as well. And then when you prioritize the final as stratified groups, they'll be able to see the highest ranked needs that come out of that meeting.
Well, I think, excuse me, President Flores, and I think that by presenting initially what we've put together, that'll kind of give them an idea of what, and then then you come in with a dialogue as to how you're going to pull from them what it is that they see, that maybe will come in line with what we've done. But maybe they have their own, like she said, be open to any suggestions, anything that they've been focusing on for the schools. And they'll have an opportunity to do that. And it's a beautiful concept for us to be able to hear from them what it is that they envision for our schools, these guardrails, the plan. It's actually a plan, and it'll bring much fruit. And that's what we look for, something that will just link our community to us and us to the community and our children.
And President Flores, the format that you've established, I think will work nicely for that, because they'll not only hear it from me, but when you get up to speak, you can reassure them that the work that they're engaged in that evening is going to be used by you, the board, through another work session to take whatever the input they provide back to modify the plan if necessary.
And one other thing, I'm curious, to my fellow board members, when you're engaging those 5 people, what is it that you're actually saying to them to get them to want, to come or to be a part of it, especially like students in general, like how are we selling this community that? 'Cause
I
have
think
an
we can
opinion,
ask
but-
more than 5, can't we? Yolanda said at least.
You're not limited to 5, correct?
Huh? Yeah, we're not. If you know more people than 5, you can ask more people.
I mean, yeah, that's just because
There-
I just want to be on the same page about how we're selling this community.
So President,
Because sometime maybe you might say to some of these 5 people, this is what it's going to be about. We invite you to come. And then I don't want to say something different to
Right.
students, and then we're not on the same page. I would be nice to have just kind of like
Yes.
one short,
Right.
one
No.
short sell that we're all
That's a
using.
good idea.
so President Flores and members of the board, what I would suggest is the public service announcement that I'm going to send is that you use that to
Okay.
formulate your comments. That way I think you're all singing from the same song sheet.
Mhm. Right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. Thank you, Lily Mae.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay, so that takes us to item 8, upcoming Taos Municipal School Board meetings. Our next regular school board meeting will be May 6th, 2026 at 6 PM here at the boardroom. For the board, I think some of you are aware, but just to reiterate, I won't be here physically, but I will be joining virtually. Vice President Spray will be leading the meeting. And item 9 is adjournment. So move to adjourn.
Second?